This video is brought to you by Skip Benton. Skip is a member in good standing with the NRBA and is a realtor with Coldwell Banker Select in Northern Nevada. All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into what happens after foreclosure, specifically the eviction process.
Oh, okay.
And you sent over some really interesting information from the National REO Brokers Association.
Yes.
So we're going to use those materials to really kind of unpack this whole thing.
Absolutely.
And hopefully help people listening figure out what their options are and what their rights are.
It's such a stressful time, so having a really clear understanding of the process and what resources are available is really key.
Yeah, and one of the first things that really jumped out at me from these NRBA articles was this sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Once that foreclosure sale happens, it's like, boom, the clock starts ticking.
Uh-huh.
And it seems like it ticks a lot faster than I would have thought.
You're absolutely right. Procrastination is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So taking action immediately is so crucial.
So how fast are we talking here? Like, what kind of timelines are we looking at?
Well, eviction timelines, they depend on where you live, local laws, all that. But some homeowners might only have 30 days to relocate.
30 days.
After the foreclosure sale.
Wow. That is barely any time to find a new place to live, pack up, and move your stuff.
Yeah.
It's no wonder the NRBA is stressing, getting on this right away.
It's a tight window.
Yeah.
And it's not just about finding a new place either. You have to think about what happens to all your stuff.
Right. Yeah, this is the part that had me worried.
Yeah.
They talk about belongings being left on the sidewalk and these crazy storage fees.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a logistical nightmare on top of, an already stressful situation.
It really can be how personal belongings are handled. It varies widely.
Oh, really?
Sometimes they're removed and put right on the sidewalk.
Wow.
In other places, they might be stored. But getting them back could cost you a fortune. One of the sources even mentioned storage fees as high as $15,000.
$15,000? Are you kidding?
I know it's a harsh reality, and it highlights how important it is to understand your local regulations.
Right.
Do your research.
Okay.
Find out what the specific rules are in your area. And to avoid getting hit with those fees, you want to prioritize getting essential items out as soon as possible after the sale.
Okay, good advice. So let's say, I'm in this situation. Who am I even dealing with at this point? Like after the foreclosure, who's the point person?
Usually a representative, often a local real estate broker, will reach out after the foreclosure sale.
Okay.
They're responsible for reselling the property, and they might even be a member of the NRBA.
Okay, so this broker is kind of like a middleman between me and the lender.
You could think of it that way. Yeah, they're often called REO brokers.
REO.
Which stands for real estate owned, meaning they handle properties the lender now owns after foreclosure. It's important to remember that while they are trained to be helpful and may know about resources, their main goal is to represent the lender.
Right.
Help them recover their losses.
That makes sense. But if they represent the lender, how can they really be helpful? To me, it seems like a bit of a conflict of interest there.
It's a great question, and it's an important nuance to keep in mind. While they're not there to be your advocate, they can still be a valuable source of information and guidance.
Okay.
The NRBA materials actually point out that if an eviction happens, it's usually handled by a completely separate entity.
Oh.
Typically an independent law firm.
So the REO broker is managing the property and trying to resell it, but they're not the ones who would actually evict me.
Correct.
Okay, so once that eviction process starts, how much wiggle room do I really have?
Honestly, not much. Both sources are pretty upfront about how tough it is to stop an eviction once it's in motion.
So even if I hired a lawyer?
It might buy you some time, but it's usually expensive and often just prolongs the inevitable. Instead of fighting the eviction, the NRBA suggests putting your energy towards finding a new place to live and accessing resources to help with that.
Okay, that's really good advice. It's easy to get caught up in, fighting that eviction.
Yes.
But finding new housing should be the priority.
Absolutely.
But that's easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
Where am I supposed to find the money to move when I just lost my home?
Yeah. That's a valid concern, and that's where relocation assistance can come in.
Relocation assistance?
It can be a real lifesaver in this situation.
Wait, like help with moving expenses? I had no idea that was even a thing.
It is, and it can be really helpful. A lot of lenders offer relocation assistance programs, which can give you money for moving costs.
Okay.
And even help cover your initial rent payments.
Rent, too.
The NRBA materials really emphasize acting fast to get the most out of this benefit.
Wow, I didn't realize relocation assistance could cover rent, too. That's huge.
Yeah.
So there's some financial help available, potentially,
Mm.
but I got to be on top of things and access it early on.
Right.
This is a lot to handle, though. Where do I even start with all this?
You're right. It can feel overwhelming. That's where getting professional help is so important. And
Sure.
the NRBA is very clear on this point. Don't try to go it alone.
So who should I be reaching out to?
They specifically mention NRBA brokers, remember the ones handling the property,
Right.
as well as HUD certified housing counselors and attorneys.
Right.
These professionals can give you guidance, point you to resources, and help you navigate all the complicated legal and financial aspects of this situation.
Okay.
They can also connect you with housing assistance programs.
Right. The NRBA materials talk about things like Section 8 vouchers, public housing, LIHAP.
Exactly. These programs can be a safety net.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand that they often have waiting lists.
Oh, okay.
So applying as soon as possible is critical, especially if you're facing eviction.
So even if I'm not at the eviction stage yet, if I know foreclosure is coming, it's best to start looking into these housing assistance options right away.
Absolutely. The sooner you get on those waiting lists, the better. And these programs, they vary a lot from state to state, even city to city.
Oh, wow.
That's why working with a HUD certified housing counselor or an NRBA broker who knows your area is so valuable.
Okay.
They can really help you navigate that local landscape.
This is all great information. It's making me think about the long-term impacts, though. How does all of this affect my credit?
That's a common concern, and unfortunately, foreclosure does hurt your credit score.
Okay.
It stays on your credit report for 7 years.
7 years, wow.
It's a long time, and it can make it harder to get loans or even rent an apartment in the future.
So it's not just the immediate stress of moving, it's also the long-term financial consequences.
That's right, but while the impact is significant, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
You can rebuild your credit over time by being responsible with your finances.
That's good to hear. What can I do to help speed up that recovery?
The NRBA suggests working with a credit counseling agency.
Yeah.
They can help you create a plan to manage your debt, improve your credit score, and get back on solid ground financially.
So even though foreclosure is a major setback, it's not a permanent roadblock.
Exactly.
There are steps you can take to rebuild and move forward.
It's all about being proactive, seeking out help, and focusing on what you can control, like practicing good financial habits.
This has been really eye-opening.
And I had no idea.
There's so many resources and things to consider. I guess the key takeaway here is knowledge is power, right?
I agree with that.
The more I understand about the process, the options and the resources, the better equipped I'll be to navigate this.
I completely agree. And that's what's so valuable about these NRBA materials. They're giving you the information to make informed decisions and maybe even avoid the worst scenarios. It's about empowering yourself to take control.
And knowing that I'm not alone in this,
Yeah.
it seems like there are actually people and organizations out there trying to help.
Absolutely. One final point I want to make is something the NRBA really emphasizes, understanding the local processes and regulations.
Right. They stress that eviction timelines, how belongings are handled, even specific assistance programs can all be different depending on where you live.
Yeah, we've given you a general overview, but your next step should be researching the specific rules and resources available in your area.
So it's about taking this general knowledge and making it specific to my situation.
Exactly. That's how you empower yourself to make the most informed decisions and access even more support than you realized was out there.
Local knowledge is power. I get it.
You got it.
Well, this has been a lot. To process foreclosure and eviction are really tough experiences, but I hope this deep dive gave you some clarity, a little hope, and a sense that you're not alone in this.
Remember, there are resources to help you through this. Reach out to the professionals and organizations we talked about. Do your research, and most importantly, take those first steps towards a fresh start.
Even though it might not feel like it right now, this isn't the end. It's just a new chapter. You've got this. And on that note of hope and resilience, we want to thank Skip Benton for today's information. Skip is a member of NRBA covering Northern Nevada. No matter where you live in the United States, if you have any questions, please contact Skip.